how I used to do with Bill, so we could have something to get people to wonder about. So I like those first ones because they deal with your books. And we left off it last night talking about the Mandela effect with Ken Johnston. And he may tune in the last hour, but we got 30 minutes left in the first one. But where do you want to do this? We've got The Open Walk is a book, and it's also now a radio show with Bill M. Tracer. And it's going to teach us to be more open-minded and accept a lot of these things here I wrote here. But, folks, I want you to be comfortable and feel like you come to listen to learn, and that we talk about reality, but also the fact that if you're the author of your own life story, you can still move into the future, creating a future. And what future do you want? So The Open Walk. Why did you write Open Walk? Was that about being open-minded? Why lead us to the open walk, Bill?
Well, as I started doing my comparative religion study, I started looking around, and it was like an open kind of thing. You have to open yourself up to lots of different other ideas that other people have, and so it's like a walk also, in that you're walking from one idea to another idea. So it's like you have to open up that way so that you can. And I considered various different titles. I looked up the phrases, the open path or the open way and the open walk, and ultimately I found that nobody was using the open walk, but the other ones were being used. So I wanted mine to stand out, so that it's not being used by anybody else. So I did extensive searches online and found that nobody was using that reference. And it seems to best describe what I'm talking about, because, like I said, you have to open your mind. But it's more than just opening your mind. It's also opening what you learn about all these other places and things and beliefs and ideas and philosophies the world over. And that was one of the topics I kind of wanted to talk about tonight, was in my book, Chapter 2, which is titled 3 Primary Discoveries. One of the things I did was I made these 3 primary discoveries as I was doing that comparative religion search. And in fact, when you compare anything, you're going to find these 3 primary discoveries. You're going to find differences, you're going to find similarities, and you're going to find commonalities. There's a popular bumper sticker I've seen where using the various symbols of different religions that I see on people's car that makes up the word coexist. And then, not long ago, I saw where someone had done the same thing with religious symbols that made up the word contradict. And, obviously that person who designed the contradict one is responding to the coexist one in a negative way. But to be honest, they're both right. It's not that one is right and the other is wrong. They're both right. We can find coexistence between all the religions of the world, and we can also find that parts of those religions contradict each other. Like I said, when you make those comparisons, you're going to find the 3 primary discoveries. And the first one is differences. You're going to find differences, but you're also going to find similarities, and then you're going to find commonalities. And the commonalities, I think, are the most important part. So I kind of came up with a little chart, I guess you could say. How do we deal with those 3 things if we really want to be harmonious with everybody? If we want to have harmony, then how do we deal with those 3 discoveries? And it's very simple. We first must appreciate our differences, comprehend our similarities, and focus on our commonalities. If we can do that, if we can treat those things that way, then we can find true harmony. Appreciate our differences, comprehend our similarities, focus on our commonalities. That'll do it. So I think it's an important way to use those 3 discoveries. And in that chapter 2 of my book, I deal with that, as well as then kind of covering some different exercises and almost like games you can play with yourself and others to help you kind of tweak those and kind of make it become a habit to appreciate our differences, comprehend our similarities, and focus on our commonalities. So that's the main thrust of Chapter 2 is trying to achieve that. And part of that does indeed require having an open mind and being able to, it's only with an open mind that you can appreciate the differences between yourself and others. And it's only with that open mind that you can really begin to comprehend about those similarities and then focus on the commonalities.
So is the Open Walk a self-help book? Where is it in Amazon?
I don't know that I've listed it that way, but in many ways it can certainly be used that way. As on the back of the book, I actually say that I see it as kind of a guidebook to the awakening age, or it can serve as that, and but not by not imposing thoughts upon the reader, but rather by provoking thoughts in them. The largest number of sentences in this book end with a question mark. There's a lot of questions.
Isn't that funny? Think about it. I don't have one in front of me. He gave me one a while back in his beta test group that I wanted to talk to Ken Johnston about tonight in our authors club, as we'd help each other edit and check for spell checks. But here's all these questions right here for you, Bill, and just off the top of my head, I did last night, because you know how you get off a radio show and it says, make your next one. And so this is, you weren't online, so I went, oh, well, okay. There they are. Ready for your next book, Open Walk 2.
Let me give you an example here. In this paragraph, the first two sentences are questions. You might ask, how can we get along with each other when our beliefs sometimes conflict so strongly? Could the answer be found in how we focus on these three discoveries? How we deal with our differences, how we search for those similarities, and how we lift up our commonalities are all crucial ingredients in the formula. So, like I say, more of that is questions, and it's by design. The whole idea is to provoke the reader to think for themselves and strive to see how they feel about that. What's their answer? It's not. I'm not trying to give you answers. I'm giving you questions to you to think about and come up with the answers yourself. And that's the teaching method that is used, I think, to great advantage by some of the greatest teachers in the world and in history. Just provoke thought. Don't try to inject it or impose it, but provoke thought in the reader, and and in the listener as well. And that's what I seek to do in the Open Walk more than anything else. It's provoke. So
provoke thoughts. So you're a natural teacher to get people to use their mind, and what information that is like having a mind is like having a computer brain. And we talk a lot about AI and AGI and where we're going in the future. And those that are visionaries and enthusiasts in our ACO club that are authors or entrepreneurs or both, they're independent contractors, and they're all about making money. But it's not about the money, and this is what a lot of people don't understand, and I see it a lot on Facebook. They think that everybody's out to sell books, but you know what? In today's time, if you've got some good thoughts and you put them together, great, and you're working on a manuscript or a story, that's what I am about. You are the author of your own life story, and that was my mother's legacy to me and my children, is to be authors, that we're all the author of our own life story. And then I came up with alien civilizations exist. So that, and then the Ascension Center back in the 80s, and I was inspired, and we talk about our oversoul and being connected to open source are all the way up. That's the internet, but also all the way up to our universal source. And Bill was very good at helping me define all of those in our Alphaverse and Omegaverse and Omniverse and how we are moving forward. And he was able to speak of those things in the future. And you have to be inspired and have an imagination too. And, there's some great minds that believed in that, Albert Einstein and Nikola Tesla. So, we're working on the consciousness. And I've heard some people talk about how they're shifting and they can feel the connection to the oversoul. And for the next month, next year is going to be tough. And we're going to talk about how all that's going to affect us. But where you're at now is you're telling us to use our minds and to think about these things. How can we all get along, even in our group, because we have different people that want to talk about different things. And, we're handling alienology and cosmology and, of course, epistemology, phenomenology, all the ologies, and Egyptology, pyramidology, ufology. But what are all these with the world religions? Theology, right? So are you a theologist?
Well, not really. Some people would call me an anti-theologist, but, that's still not what I am either. I look around me and I see a lot of conflict in this world, and I think a lot of it is unnecessary in many ways. It's funny I could use that word, unnecessary. I used to laugh at my mother. Not that I was laughing in a bad way. I was just laughing with. Sometimes we'd be watching television, and there might be some violent act occur. Somebody shoots somebody, and she would just sort of huff and say, "Well, that was unnecessary." And
that's hilarious, but it's so mother-like, the universal source, and good for her.
Like you, I would laugh, but at the same time, you know what? I agreed with her. It is unnecessary. It's unnecessary for people to be violent with each other. It's unnecessary for people to just be so ugly, killing other people. It's just unnecessary. And, she meant it in a different way than I am. Maybe I'm kind of preaching at the moment, but still, she was right. She was right in her own parochial sort of way. It was unnecessary. So I look at all this conflict in the world, and I say that it's unnecessary, and it's unfortunate. And so what I'm really trying to do with the open walk is offer a path for people to find a way to ease up from the conflicts, to not encourage all this separation, And in part of the book, I identify what I call the 6 pitfalls to avoid on our open walk. And these 6 pitfalls are part of the conflict. They're part of the reason that the various religions of the world are so separate from one another, and sometimes at conflict with one another, sometimes literally fighting one another. And if we can extract ourselves from these pitfalls, if we can avoid these pitfalls, and we can navigate around them, then we can find that way to harmonize, like I talked about last week, like that symphony, all the different musical instruments, like all the different religions of the world. When they're not playing together, it creates noise. But when the conductor gets up there and gets them all together and they're playing in harmony with one another, it's beautiful, it's sweet, and that's the way it's supposed to be with these religions, all the different religions of the world as well. We can do that. We can harmonize. But
we're under the spirituality category, so that's good. I guess I was able to change our category from news last night to spirituality tonight. So isn't that interesting? So you must be a little bit of a theologist. spirituality person.
Yes, I'm spiritual.